Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. Hey everybody, it's Simone Morris. Happy New Year, happy 2020. I hope your year is off to a wonderful start and that you are well positioned in the driver's seat. I want to share a tip with you to help you keep control of that driver's seat. One of the things I think is important to do is to really do a pause. It's mid-January, and it's important to really reflect on the lessons of 2019 and the lessons of the first 2 weeks of the year when there's a lot of noise going on. For me, I have paused to do some journaling just on what's happened, the lessons, again, at the end of 2019 and the start of 2020. I want to take those lessons forward, and I want to revisit the goals that I had set for myself before the year began and just make sure that they are actually in harmony with the different focus areas that I have for myself. As I've said before, my focus areas for 2020 is really health, family, and career. What I'm wanting to do is to really be in the driver's seat of that and look how to weave those together in a harmonious way before I hit the gas pedal really, really hard to take off for 2020. So I'm advising you to take a moment to reflect on your goals and to look and make sure they're the goals that you do want for yourself. If you don't have goals, take an opportunity to set goals and to be in charge of your career outcome. The second thing that I think is important is to make sure you're in tune with your professional development plan. Create a professional development plan where you're planning out your learning for the entire year. You're seeking out opportunities. You do not have to have a ton of money. It's great to have your own tuition reimbursement plan, which is a bucket of money that you put aside for professional development. But in addition to that, be thinking of ways where you can leverage volunteering and other opportunities to gain that knowledge that you're wanting for the year. So check out your professional development plan. My website has a resource in the store that you can use to support you on that journey. That's SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org/shop. You can take a look at that to get resources to support your career growth. But that's one of the things that I think is important to do. The other tip that I want for you is to get out there and build those key relationships that are going to help you for career success. I have found that by embracing networking, whether it's online or even going out and being out of my comfort zone and saying yes to opportunities, that has in fact opened up some doors for collaboration opportunities for me in 2020 and beyond. I'm super excited about that and just wish someone had mentioned that to me before. So whether it's the journaling or the professional development planning for growth and also your networking strategy, these are things that I want you to be taking a look at in 2020 to stay in the driver's seat. Have a wonderful week. The next episode coming up is another great one, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So grab your pen or pencil and a notepad and take some notes about how you're going to apply tips for your career in 2020 and beyond. Enjoy. I am super pleased to have with me this week Angela Hosking. Angela is a women's empowerment and leadership speaker, author, facilitator, coach, and owner of Her One Tribe LLC. Angela, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Simone.
Awesome. I'm so excited to talk to you today tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you're currently doing.
Sure. Well, my name is Angela, and I'm currently wearing two career hats right now. I have more than 20 years leadership experience in the healthcare industry, and I work as the director of nursing for the Levine Cancer Institute. And I also own my own company called Her One Tribe, and I have been a leadership expert, speaker, author, workshop facilitator, and coach for the last 3 years.
Awesome. So nice to have you on the podcast. What are some of the career highlights on this journey that you've had?
So I think that my journey has been one of a full circle journey. I started out as my first undergraduate degree with an English degree, wanting to be a writer, and suddenly found, as many do with a liberal arts education, what do we do next? And I found shortly thereafter a passion for medicine and helping other people. And it was my husband who said to me, do you want to go back to school and get into healthcare and nursing? And I said, yes, I do. And so I began a journey of going back to school and furthering my education, being an oncology nurse for many years while my children were small, and had the leadership bug tapped into me by a couple of mentors at work, and eventually rose up the ranks as a supervisor, a nurse manager, and a director, and now the director of nursing. And so I've worn many hats as a healthcare expert in those many years.
So what's the secret sauce to being successful in your mind?
For me, I think being open to opportunities as they come and not being so, having a focus set on what you think you want to do. Being in healthcare was something I never had really thought of as a younger woman. And when the opportunity arose and I had some exposure, recognized there was a love and a passion for medicine and for helping others. And in that respect as well, after having many years in leadership and wanting to help further other women and younger women on the leadership journey, I took a look at the bookshelves and saw that most of the leadership books were being written by men. And I, as a woman leader, felt that they were being written by men for men, and that there was another way to view leadership and successful leadership. And so I then decided I was going to write a book about being a lady boss and being able to tap into the advantages that we women bring to the table authentically and differently than men do. So I think taking opportunity as it comes and not being afraid to explore another side of you that you maybe didn't know that you had.
Wonderful, wonderful. So how do you make it all work? You mentioned coming up the ranks and being a mom. What are some secret strategies that works for you in terms of having balance? And actually right now as well, you're balancing your full-time job and your empire, right? So what do you do? What do you do to make it all work?
So the number one secret sauce is to learn to be able to say no. I think that especially women who, like me, I like to have 27 balls in the air. It's fun, and I enjoy it. It's when someone tosses me that 28th ball that I go, uh-oh, what am I going to do now? So having a successful relationship with my husband has been paramount. Our daughters, when I went into nursing, were a little bit older and school aged, and I worked at that time the night shift to make it easier for our family and for me to be there at certain times of the day or for homework and those types of things, and really supported my husband as his career took off. And then we flipped, and as mine began to take off, he began to take over some roles and do some things so that I could be there and grow and develop and do, go back to school. I got a double master's degree, do those things as well. But I think as a mother, I showed my daughters that self-empowerment and self-education was important. And as they saw me going through the transitions and continually developing myself professionally and educationally, it sparked an interest in them as well. And they recognized, hey, you don't have to know what you want to be when you're 22 and, step out that door into employment and never pivot or never rethink, now's the time for me to grow educationally as well too. Now they're adult daughters, so they're 27 and 24, and that makes my life a little bit easier. The only person I have that expects me to make dinner is my chocolate lab. And I think also having a great network of women supporters helps as well too.
Awesome. So what this show is about women being in the driver's seat for their careers, really taking ownership and steering their career in a direction that they want to have. For you, what was the moment that signified to you that you were in the driver's seat for your career?
I think when I turned my hobby and my passion project into a business. I started 5 years ago from a fulfilling bucket place of writing a women's leadership and empowerment blog, and was doing it solely for an outlet of creativity and also wanting to help other women. And as it began to grow and the readership began to grow, and the idea for writing the book came, and I had more people asking me, can you teach me more? Can I take a workshop or a class with you? And I recognized that it was becoming a business, and I created my LLC. I think the day that my LLC was born was like giving birth to the baby.
You did.
Yes. And having that pride and ownership that this was something that I solely could control and create and have all the say in, as well as all of the responsibility to learn and understand what I was getting myself into. I grew up in a generation, Generation X, where I was taught by traditional parents that you get your education and you work for a company and you put your nose to the grindstone and you work hard and you rise the corporate ladder, and that's exactly what I did. I had never really been exposed to an entrepreneurial idea, and being around other women who were doing it sparked curiosity in me. And I think the joy of being able to put out there my particular values and mission in a product in a way that people were eager to consume was very fulfilling.
That just resonates with me on so many levels, Angela, because I definitely was raised that way as well, to really do the job and to not really stray out into the world of entrepreneurship. So I do really remember my mom always saying, when are you going to get a job? As I continued the entrepreneurial path, but luckily she's come around. Talk to us about risk and how you've managed to really get a handle on risk in your career, how it served you, and any advice around taking risks for growing your career.
Yeah, I think oftentimes we don't think we're ready, and an opportunity presents itself and we say, oh, I couldn't possibly. But one of the things that I've always done is just leap. I say my tagline is feel the fear, but do it anyway. And, I think we all know that Harvard Business Review study that shows that, men apply to the job when they only have 60% of the qualifications, and women tend to wait till they have 100%. I would say take a look at your beliefs and what you really have accomplished, and just do it. Oftentimes the things that I've been most successful at, when I took the leap, I didn't even think it was in my realm of possibility. And then later went, yeah, I know I can do this. I've got the skill set to learn and to be able to do it. So don't wait till you feel 100% ready, because you're never going to feel 100% ready.
Yeah, I want to call that hashtag truth serum, because it's so true. And, back to the feel the fear and do it anyway. I always, in the recommendations of books that I recommend to people, there is actually a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by the late Susan Jeffers, who is wonderful.
Oh, great. I stole her book title. Wonderful.
No, it's true.
I can say who wrote that.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful short read, but just very powerful. And so that always comes to mind when I hear that phrase, because it is really true. It's just walking through the fear. I mean, it's a journey for sure. Can you think about a moment in your career, perhaps, where you feel like you avoided responsibility for your career?
I think potentially early on, when I first took over, when I was a first-time manager, and I took on a team of about 90 or 100 people initially. And in the beginning, not understanding that managing a team meant really managing people. that you it's your responsibility to find out what each person needs and tap into that to motivate and get them going in the right direction. And my first initial idea of being the boss meant, I would just walk in and I would tell everyone I was the boss, and everyone would happily just jump in line and follow the vision without putting in that work. And that was a hard lesson learned that first year of you really have to get to know each of your teammates individually, personally, understand their values and their beliefs and why they're there. And then only then can you connect with them in the trusting factor of asking them to jump in the ship with you. So that was a great year, that first year of leading that team.
Oh my goodness. I'm just imagining, oh my goodness, 90 people.
Yeah, it's what led me to write my book, because I really felt like when I stepped into that position, eager and a high performer, but not really understanding the dynamic of leading people. And in my book, I share stories of absolute failure, of things that I did wrong that first year, but also things that I learned, and then I could turn around. And the team that I inherited was initially it was a toxic work culture. And when I left that team, they were super high performing. And so the journey that we learned together was really special.
Oh, it sounds very, very special. So coming off of that statement, what advice would you give to someone wanting to own their career?
I think understand your values and your beliefs first. I think if, in looking at how to best live your best life, if you have a value of service, or you have a value of helping others, or you have a value of, success, understanding what type of career would align with that. Because I think where people maybe fall flat or get burned out is that they're not working in an area that aligns with their personal values. And it's very hard to feel genuinely engaged and supportive of the work that you're doing if it's in conflict with your values. And if you've never done an exercise where you go, what are my values? There's lots of worksheets out there. I have a free worksheet that people can download, but it's a helpful exercise to understand what resonates and what makes you you. I also think understanding how your limiting beliefs, or the beliefs that you have about your abilities, about what you can and cannot do, our beliefs are long-held convictions that, we don't need any proof. We just say, I'm either not smart, or I'm smart, or I'm capable or not capable. And we don't tend to question those. We just, think that they are it, and that's what it is. But really, when you have a thought pop into your head about your abilities or where you should be, question it. Ask yourself, is this something that's validated by fact or by, just years of an ingrained thinking pattern? And do I need to really question that? I had never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur, but that's what I am today. And being able to question those beliefs is invaluable.
That's a great example. So what messaging did you have to tell yourself to undo that I'm not an entrepreneur, so that you can, in fact, move forward into this new chapter of... Go ahead.
I think for me, there was a book written by Jeff Goins called "You Are a Writer, So Write." And when I was writing my book, I had a lot of imposter syndrome feelings initially about, who am I to say that I'm, going to be an author? And that title resonated with me. And it's one of the things that I do today, and I tell others in my workshops, is that if the type of person that you want to be, or the thing that you want to be, start doing it, because then that's what you are. And you can begin to tell your brain, I am an entrepreneur because I am running a business. It doesn't mean that I have to be a 7-figure entrepreneur. It just means that today I am doing something to either grow or promote my business, and that makes me an entrepreneur. And same thing with being a writer. If you want to be a writer, get out your notebook today and start writing. That makes you a writer, right? So it's just doing the action that then supports what the statement is, the person that you want to become, over and over again, like a habit. And then you'll begin to see, your brain will say, I really am this.
Yeah, I think Angela, you and I were talking before about really overthinking things. I think sometimes we get in our own way in terms of overthinking. Well, what does it mean? I must be that 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur, or I must be a best-selling author, so therefore I cannot be an author. And it's really not the case?
I think in the work that I do in helping women to see really the 12 common thinking patterns that we have been societally, grown up and taught as we were growing up, a lot of that has to do with overvaluing experience. A lot of it has to do with people-pleasing thinking patterns. A lot of it has to do with feeling like an imposter, and the highest one is the need to be perfect. The need to be that A+, sit in the front of the room woman that gets everything correct. And the reality is none of us are like that. And the more that we vulnerably share our true stories of what it takes to have success in an area, and the bumps and the bruises and the trials and the tribulations and the years and the effort that it takes, then more people and more women will be able to see that it's not all that the Instagrammable world would have it be, and that every single one of us goes through a journey of finding that destination, and the timeline is different for every single one of us. And the more that we surround ourselves with women and tell our truths, the more that we will stop beginning to believe that we don't fit in or that we're not enough, right? That's a big phrase. I'm not enough.
Right. It's so wonderful what you're saying and sharing. So much value there in just the thought process and actions that people can take. I think vulnerability, I swear I hear vulnerability and I think of Brene Brown, but how important it is to show that you're human. And sometimes we don't want to show that we're actually human and flawed because of what the reaction might be.
Right. But really, truly, we all are flawed. And the more that I see someone else's flaws, the more that I trust them. I trust them because I believe that they are sharing in a space of learning, in a space of shared community, of shared existence. I don't want to see the perfect Instagram mom, mother, professional woman who has it all together, and it's not difficult for her, because then how do I feel like I can ever get to the level that she's at? When I'm forgetting a meeting, or my alarm doesn't go off, or today I'm in sweatpants and a bunsy hair because I didn't have time to put on the face for the world. And I'm sharing with you, every week I share an email with my readers about empowerment ideas and confidence building tips. And oftentimes what's in that email is a true story of what I was dealing with that week, and building that credibility of, I'm the same as you on the same journey, and how can we learn from each other?
Yeah. I think that's, I think that's great. Let's go back to the formula for owning your career. You have two perspectives that you are working in concert. So you're the director in corporate healthcare space, as well as you're an entrepreneur moving forward, soaring in your business. Putting those two together, what would you say your formula for owning your career is?
I think making space for both. When I'm in my day job, I am 100% in my day job. But I think the entrepreneurial piece and the excitement and the bucket filling that it does brings me to my 9 to 5 with an energy and an enthusiasm, because they're in alignment with women's leadership. I'm able to take the lessons that I learned in my daily career to my 5 to 9, as we call it, experience as well. And so I think they complement each other. I am very mindful of the fact that both of them are two very separate pieces of my life, and make sure that I take time off from the day job and take time off from the 5 to 9 to replenish myself as well too. But really, I think they complement each other, and I encourage anyone who is interested in learning more about something else that they would like to explore in their lives. That's the perfect way to start, is having a 5 to 9 where you just have an opportunity to grow and develop and educate yourself and learn something that's just for you. And like I said, it started out as a passion project. I really never intended it to become a business. But when it resonated so much with other women, I thought, well, how can I reach more? And when you think, how can I reach more? That means you're investing time, and time is money.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So as we begin to wrap up the interview, What resources, online or otherwise, have you found to be useful in owning your career?
I am a huge podcast junkie. I listen to podcasts every day when I commute, and I'm always looking for podcasts that are doing either some similar things that I'm doing or doing something completely industry different so that I can always keep learning. Some of my favorite ones that I like to listen to is I love Amy Porterfield's podcast. It's a great one. I also love Rachel Hollis's podcast. I think her Rise podcast and Rise Together with her husband's another good one. I'm also a huge proponent of reading. I'm always reading at least one nonfiction book, and then at nighttime before I go to sleep, I have my fiction so that I can rest. My nonfiction book that I'm reading now is called Atomic Habits. And I think his last name is James Clear, which that's a phenomenal reference book for people who are trying to habitualize certain parts of their work life or their business so that it's not as much work for them. So that's a great read. I just think always making sure that you're learning and have different resources, whether that's an ebook or a fiction book or something that continually add to that creativity. The more that I learn, the more that it sparks that creative spark, and the more that I can take that to my professional world or I can take it to my business.
Great. Well, as we wrap up, I want to say thank you for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. But please tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you.
Sure. Well, you can reach me. My website is called heronetribe.com. And there's resources and blog posts on that website as well, too. And you can sign up for my weekly email newsletter. You can find my book, Woman on Top, Lead Like a Lady Boss, on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And I love to be on Instagram for inspiration. I send out a daily feel-good, positive vibe, Woman Tribe inspiration. So if you're on Instagram, @HerOneTribe is where you can find me there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Angela. We have thoroughly enjoyed this interview with lots of wisdom and career nuggets. And thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It is my hope that you enjoyed today's episode. You can check out the show notes for this episode on the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org website by clicking the podcast menu. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.